Hello, everyone, and welcome to this podcast. I hope you're really well. And today I am going to be talking to the lovely Vicki Brown from LiveFitNow, all about her life in exercise and in helping other people train to be healthier and fitter. And we're also going to talk about the relationship between food and exercise also as we get into the conversation. But before that, welcome, Vicki.
Hi, Laurie. Thank you so much for having me today. I have been looking forward to this conversation because I know there is so much we can cover together.
Oh, how lovely. Well, you are very, very welcome. And I'm sure everyone will find it really, really interesting. So we've known each other for not that long, actually, a few months via Instagram. And we both know the digital marketing couple, Yellow Tuxedo, don't we? And we've liked each other's stuff. And I just thought there was a real synergy on here that I really wanted to explore and for my listeners to also benefit from. So before we get stuck in, it'd be really interesting to know a little bit more about you and your business and how you got into this whole world of fitness.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I definitely agree we have so much synergy together. I will try and not waffle because I can go off down tangents when it comes to describing why and how I've got to where I have. But
you can waffle as much as you like. You carry on.
Thank you. So LiveFitNow started, I suppose, when I decided in uni, when I was studying law, that wasn't what I wanted to do. I had got into the gym having not been sporty as a child at all, and really loved what I got from the gym. I only joined the gym purely because I was at a stage where I realized I had to look after myself. I actually got sick during my A-levels and I was diagnosed with IBD, which is inflammatory bowel disease, indeterminate colitis. And that did knock me for six. So it was my pivotal moment of completely changing my perspective on a lot of things. So once I'd got a little bit more well after being very unwell, I thought I had to take care of myself. And that is the moment I joined a local independent gym because I thought I probably should try and look after my body. And I made a promise to myself. I said, all right, I'm going to join the gym. I don't want to just be one of those things that I join and never go to. I'm going to go 3 times a week. Well, I did start going 3 times a week and then 4 and then 5 until I was going every day because I just loved the environment. I loved what I was getting from it. It was something completely new, great people. So over a few years, and I was studying at university and as I got more and more into the gym, by the end of my degree, I decided that I didn't feel that the law career was my destiny, for want of a slightly less dramatic word, and
very different. I mean,
very different.
You are spending quite a lot of time relatively sedentary, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're studying, you're going through papers, and you're thinking.
Yeah,
I was don't think when you exercise, but exercise is completely different. So active, isn't it?
Yeah, I was very much more on the academic side than I was on the sporty active side at school. I mean, I've said it many times before. People at school would never have thought that I would have ended up where I am today. There's no way.
That'll show them then, won't it? all those PE teachers who said, well, Victoria does try hard. But...
Exactly. I was never in the first team. Exactly that. Exactly. And then, so I was coming towards the end and I obviously wanted to finish my degree. I was never going to leave it halfway. It's always a backup. I didn't know this was going to work. But basically, as soon as I finished, I had the conversation with my parents and luckily very supportive. I want to give this a try. So I did my qualifications. I actually did my swimming teaching qualifications and my level 2, level 3 fitness instructor and personal training qualifications. So I did as much as I could in that first year and then just went in to get as much experience as possible. So I got work at the gym that I actually originally joined. So they really helped me through that process, which was a massive support as well. That was a big part of it. I went back to someone who actually taught me how to swim. I started teaching with them and then I moved on to other schools. So I just filled my time with getting lots of experience. And it was that time that I created LiveFitNow. I chose that name and brand to start this. And
I think it's a great brand name because it's very energetic in itself, and that idea of making fitness really part of your your life, you know, living with it. I like the now, because there's that sort of urgency of it and just getting on with it, really. I think it's a great name.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad that you understand what it's trying to say, because I know sometimes a name can confuse people, or not even think perhaps about it, but that is exactly it. And considering I chose that so early on, it has evolved to mean even more with what I now stand for as well. You know, it's I started in this industry because I got excited by something. I felt really good for doing that, and I wanted to pass that on to other people, because I know there are so many people that don't like exercise. You know, they have this negative relationship with it, for whether it comes from school or, you know, it's just constantly been a battle for them. And a lot of times you don't, for example, I do love lifting weights and going to the gym. That isn't necessarily an opportunity that's presented to people when they're young. They might have literally just had, you know, if you're the girls, hockey and netball, or football and rugby and cricket, you know, if you're the boys, if you don't like those things, you kind of have this idea that you don't like exercise. But what I love is the fact that there are so many different ways you can exercise and move your body and feel so different from doing it. So it really evolved for me, and I love lots of different aspects of exercise now. But I guess for me, starting to lift weights was something that got me excited, and it's something that I have seen develop over the years of working with lots of people. And I have literally had people say to me, I hate exercise. So they're sitting in front of me in the consultation like, I hate exercise. Like, they're here, they obviously know they want to do something for themselves, but they're already setting up, they're going to hate it, they don't like exercise, but they know they should do it really, so they do. And actually a few weeks down the line, they say, oh, this feels so different. This isn't how I thought it was going to be. And actually, I really like this. And it's something I like about weights in particular. Not only are there so many long-term benefits of weights and resistance training, again, I think weights can put people off. There's lots of ways that you can resistance train to have the benefit for your body.
Yes, and I'd like to explore a little bit of that, actually, because I think that, as you say, quite a lot of people are resistant to exercise, and I think there are a number of reasons. It could be about confidence, it could be, as you say, previous experiences of it not working too well. I think sometimes, and you can obviously correct me and add to this, but I think sometimes people go at it a little bit crazy and maybe hurt themselves, and then that puts them off, doesn't it? I mean, what other resistance do you come across when you meet people?
Do you know something I find so often, and I think we're probably all guilty of it in different aspects of our lives at times until it clicks, and it's definitely clicked with me in the last few years, that for some reason, we feel like we should be able to do certain things. And the idea of not being able to do it makes us feel a little bit embarrassed, or like we don't want to fail at it, so we're not going to try. But the truth of the matter is, every single person starts as a beginner. Whatever expert that you're looking to and listening to and reading, or whatever it might be, they weren't born knowing all that stuff. They were one day a beginner, just like you might be right now. And it doesn't matter if you're not very good to start with. You don't even have to be very good ever. Like, as long as you get something from it, or you enjoy it, or it obviously depends on the thing we're talking about. But so many people won't go into the weights area of a gym because they are intimidated by the whole environment and they don't want to look stupid. Now, I would always say, first of all, just because people look like they know what they're doing doesn't always mean they do. So that should be your first, just a little reassurance. Just because they're acting confident doesn't mean they're doing it right. Every single person didn't know how they were going to do those things when they first walked in, so they had to learn. And if you can get the basic knowledge and foundation and just build that confidence, and that doesn't always have to be done in the gym, you know, you can do these things at home. That's quite often what I do. I have a private studio here, so I can teach people how to perform the exercises, perform the moves, learn about posture, learn how their body moves, understand what muscles you're trying to work, learning how to build mind muscle connection. There's so many layers to it, but ultimately it's allowing you to have that foundation that you can then apply to lots of different things.
Because you don't actually ever have to go to the gym, do you?
No,
I mean, some people, the cost is preclusive. For others, there's that sense of comparisonitis, isn't there? You know, where you actually, there's that moment, and I can remember it, where you go up to a machine and you think, now, I know the personal trainer told me how to use how to start, and I'm not quite sure which bit goes in here, and I'm not quite sure whether I've got the angle right. Oh, I don't think I'll bother. I'll go over and do some sit-ups or something, because I think I know how to do those. And it is because what's actually been quite interesting is that I do some yoga, because I've got a metal hip and I've got a bit of angina and stuff anyway. So it means that there are some things that are tricky for me. So I've been doing some yoga during lockdown, and I'm quite competitive. And I have found that actually doing it at home on Zoom without other people in the room has actually got rid of quite a lot of that comparison sort of judgment, because I'm not looking at whether other people are doing. I'm really focusing on what I'm doing. And I wonder whether maybe during this lockdown period, people have perhaps started exercising more at home and felt a little bit more comfortable around it. You know, because they're just in their own zone. I mean, I suppose that agree. Go on.
Yeah, no, I do. I completely agree. A couple of points there. First of all, back to the machine thing. First, every single person has felt like that. And I will tell you, as someone that obviously knows how to use equipment, we will occasionally, well, when you could, go and just train at a gym elsewhere. And every gym has different equipment. So if you're talking about the actual machines, even I turn up sometimes, I'm like, what is this? How on earth am I going to get this? And I don't, because I have the confidence because of my experience, I will play around with the machine and move it about and just try and get it into the right position. And, you know, usually you have a play with it, you'll figure it out and you'll sort it out. Or obviously you can go and grab someone that uses it all the time. But that is such a common thing. And also actually one of the reasons that I really love free weights, providing you know how to use them safely, I think free weights are very freeing, because actually you could take some off into this sort of corner of the gym to get a bit of confidence. It also allows you to fully move to your body. The good thing about machines is it does allow you to move through basic positions without having to think too much, and it kind of shows you the diagrams on the machine, so that's like a positive. But on the flip side, those machines are never perfect for anybody's frame or physique, because if you're thinking, you know, you might have a 6'5" man on there and then a 5' woman and everything in between with all different shapes and sizes with different widths of shoulders, and you know, literally everything could be different, and they are trying to cover all of those things. And there's a couple of exceptions, like I think the lat pull down machine and the cables, they're a bit more flexible, but ultimately with dumbbells and barbells, you definitely have that freedom to make sure you're taking the position that's best for you to get the most from the exercise. So I completely agree. Machines are completely daunting. They are useful, but you certainly don't need them. I think that's a good thing to remember. There's lots of different ways to, horrible phrase, but skin a cat. And ultimately, that is the thing with a lot of these things. And I've completely forgotten what the second part of that question.
Oh, well, I know I was just going on about yoga and about the fact that when you're at home, you don't have that sense of competition.
Yeah.
You know, so you're a bit more in your own zone.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree with you more. And I think in many ways of all the bad from this last year, I think the good has empowered people to realize, firstly, how much time you can save if you can work out at home, how much you can get from working out at home. You don't necessarily need a lot of equipment or even any equipment with certain things, and get a great workout from it. And I think that flexibility and ease will allow people to just move more, because we don't necessarily need to head out the house, go to the gym for an hour, come back. You know, it's a couple of hours out of your day. You could potentially just do a 10, 15, 20-minute workout at home.
Yes.
You could easily just slot in the beginning, middle, end of your day. It's not this massive event, but you are nourishing your body by allowing it
Yes,
to move.
physically, yes.
Yeah.
Because that can often be a challenge, can't it? That it's, oh, it just takes too long and I haven't got the time, and it gets to a certain time in the day and you think I haven't got time to go before I do dinner. And if actually, I mean, that is sometimes very real for people, but then sometimes it's an excuse not to do it if you don't really want to do it either. But I was also thinking that possibly when you're at home, though, the only negative thing could be that you haven't got someone there looking at how you're doing it, what your technique is like. And I know you had a series of YouTube videos, didn't you, with different challenges, and were they geared up for people doing things at home with limited equipment?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very much, I did the 28-day February challenge, and I did a real mixture of things to work on, not only cardiovascular health, resistance training, of which you could just use body weight, or you could use things that are around your home, cans, fill a bag up with
water. Yes,
yeah, exactly. Oh, if you've got dumbbells, that's great. If you've got a kettlebell or resistance bands, it was very much applicable to work with whatever you had, because you can, we've all got something that we can use to add that resistance, and just to simplify it as well. But I tried to show that there are different ways of moving your body as well. So we did strength, but we also then did yoga in between and stretching, because there is like a puzzle, I suppose, of trying to work on everything. And I think this is also one of the things that can seem overwhelming. Like, what am I meant to be doing? Am I meant to, should I go for a run? Should I do weights? Should I do yoga or Pilates? Well, in an ideal world, we'd have time for everything. But what we realistically need to do is see what we can actually fit into our lives. And sometimes realizing if you just do it for 5 minutes, that is enough to add up over time. Because if you always think, I don't have time, you'll do nothing. And if you do nothing, there's nothing to add up. And I will often, people that are really, really, really time poor, I will try and think of things that you can do literally whilst doing something you already do in your life. So for example, a really good balance is a massive thing. People get really frustrated with not being able to do things on one leg. So one of my top tips is, when you're brushing your teeth, try and stand on one leg and switch between sides, because it is something that will become more ingrained, and you'll start doing it without even thinking, because you will every single day be brushing your teeth. So it's something you can do at the same time. Maybe when you're putting the kettle on or the coffee machine on, you could just do 5 squats or do some press ups against the worktop. Like, it doesn't always have to be big. Now, if you have goals that require that, obviously you have to assess it in that way. But if we're just thinking we want to be stronger and fitter and healthier, the more we can incorporate into our day to get ourselves moving, the bigger benefit we're going to have. Because the truth is, with any sort of progress, the absolute key is consistency. And once you understand how to move your body, how you want it to feel, and what you're trying to achieve, you can fit it into your daily routine and habits. And over time, and we're talking not just, what can you achieve in 4 weeks or 21 days, or how are you going to feel this time next year, in the next decade, and the decade after that. And I know it might seem like it's a bit far ahead, and often people don't start until they start to ache and hurt and not feeling so good. I think that's probably one of my passions. The reason I got into this ultimately is because I wasn't very well when I was quite young. And actually, in some ways, it's a blessing, because if it wasn't for that, I might never have bothered to join the gym. It might not have been any sort of interest, or I might not have felt that it was a really important part. It was the gym for me. It doesn't have to be the gym, of course, but that's what took me to the next step, because I want to look after myself for the future. And there are lots of other benefits from that. I mean, lots of people will start exercising because they want to lose weight or change their body. Everyone has their different motivations. That's not a problem that initially gets them going. But if we think about when we're getting older, we want to still be able to do things. We want to feel good and live for a long time well. We don't want to just get old. So I just think if we can put the foundation in when we're young, and it's just part of your life, it doesn't feel like such a chore. Not all the time. I mean, sometimes it does. Sometimes you sort of make yourself do it and feel good for it. But it is for life. And that is what is so important, I think, for making it more manageable.
Absolutely. And there are a few things there that I'm just nodding furiously. People can't see me, but it's like my head's going to fall off like one of those dogs in the back of a 1960s car. But this thing that you build habits, you know, you build the thinking in, and it just becomes associated with your early morning cup of tea or brushing your teeth. And then, as you say, it doesn't, you know, some days that might be all we've had time for. A few squats, running up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times, carrying linen baskets or whatever it is, you know, we're still moving our body. And then on other days, we've got time to perhaps do something a little bit more formal.
Yeah.
And I think that a bit like the eating thing, I think we have to be quite kind to ourselves, don't we? And I think we have to say, I am going to do what I can. I am going to do it. I'm not putting it off, but I'm going to do what I can, because life is busy. And I think that if we have less of that judgment going on in our head, we're much more likely to carry on any behavior change consistently, because actually perfection doesn't really exist, because other things get in the way, don't they? So I think we have to try and keep a nice sort of even keel, do what we can, and be quite happy with that, really.
Yeah. And you know what? I think something that often comes up is we need to be realistic and honest with ourselves, because I think what will often happen is, and it's very much applicable with exercise and food, I think this comes together so that there's a lot of mirroring here. People are often either completely on it or completely off it. And for most people, the ultimate goal is to feel better, perhaps lose some weight, you know, and look different. But actually, if you go all in really hard, you're literally trying to work out 5, 6, 7 times a week, you're going super strict on the calorie, you're really not eating very much because you want to shed a stone or whatever it might be, you know, in a month because you're off on holiday or weddings or whatever it might be. It doesn't stick. Very, very, very rarely will it stick. And you end up just going up and down. You get a very negative association with these things as well, because you sort of get the high and then you get the low, and it's not the best way to be. It does work for some people. I'll always say that is to caveat, you know, you need to find what works for you. But for most people, to fit in with your life that is busy and your main goals in life isn't actually your physique, it is all the stuff you've got to do, and you need to do those well. It needs to be just part of your life. Unless you have a massive goal. You know, if you have something big that you're trying to achieve, you are trying to do X, Y, and Z. If that is a big goal, you need to set a realistic time period to do something like that. If you want to run a marathon, you aren't just going to head out the door and go straight at it, having not run for a couple of years. You know, you have to build yourself up to it with a realistic amount of time to give yourself the chance of actually achieving it. And I'm bringing lots of things into it now, but the media, social media, the images we see of people's bodies, which obviously have lots of ways we could go from that in itself. But people's goals are often the results of an athlete's lifestyle. Now, I have the utmost respect for how these people can get to these positions. But if they actually told you the truth and what that involved every single day, what they were eating and what they were doing, and the help they got to do that as well, because often they do have help, would you really want to take that on in your life? Is that image what you want to commit to? Because if it is, you know what, go for it. Fantastic. You know, set yourself as high a goal as you want to. I don't think we should be limited in that way. But you do not end up like that by putting very little effort in. It takes full-on commitment. And if that's how you want to challenge yourself, go for it. But I think for most people, realistically, they do not want all this stuff to take over. They want to be able to enjoy food, and they want to be able to move their bodies in a way that they feel good and have fun and get the high from it and get the benefit, but that isn't all encompassing. And, you know, I think your own personal goals, if it's for you, choose what it will be, but make sure you're being realistic. And if you do have a very big, let's just, weight loss, obviously both of us deal with people a lot, that is their main goal. If you have a big amount of weight that you want to lose, don't try and do it in a how fast can I get this done? How quickly can this be happening? How can you change your habits, that this is going to be it? This is how you're going to live for, well, from
Forever.
now, for now. And so therefore it might take you twice as long, maybe 3 times as long, but ultimately you're already going to be where you're always going to want to be, and you're going to get there eventually, but it takes time. And unfortunately, we don't particularly live surrounded in a culture that has patience and time, longevity. It's all about quick fixes and yesterday.
It is. It's all about instant, isn't it? It's all about instant. And I think there are a few things there. One, I just want to pick up on this idea about investment, because it's the same with nutrition. It's the same with eating healthily. You are investing in this body. It's the only one that you've got, and the better you treat it, the more positively it's going to respond to you. And I think that there is a lot of pressure on people, and it's born out of the diet culture. It's born out of the images that we see, for people to aspire to having a certain body, as you say. So they might want to, look like effectively like a professional athlete, who don't, that's their job. That's what they do all day.
Their entire lives have been focused on it.
Exactly, their entire lives. They have to sacrifice everything, time with family, friends, all that kind of stuff, to really get to the top. If you've ever read a biography of exactly, think, crikey, this is really hard work. I mean, the dedication is amazing. And so I think you're so right that we have to separate us from the people that we see. And I think if we also think about the whole body image and losing weight thing, there are a lot of influencers, a lot of celebrities, a lot of people out there who have the most beautiful images of themselves. A lot of them have been doctored, if you like, because they have an image that they want to maintain. And quite a lot of my work actually is around trying to encourage people to appreciate the body that they have got, to understand the genetics of the body, where it comes from, and to feel quite positive about that, and then to be realistic about where they can get to. Sometimes people will come and they say, I absolutely have to be a certain weight. And I'll say, okay, that's interesting. So just talk to me about that. Where does that come from? Oh, well, I've always thought that I should be. I have to fit into a certain size.
Yeah. They want to go back in time to, at that age, they want to go back to then.
Often that, yes. But, the reality might be that they are 10 or 20 years older. They might have had children. So their body shape might have changed. Or sometimes they have spent a period of time exercising like crazy and eating in a restricted way in order to maintain a weight which their body doesn't even want to be. They're fighting against their body. And I'm sure that you find this as well in terms of exercise. Certain bodies are just not able to do certain things. I mean, I certainly wasn't born with an athletic body. I do what I can, but I can't really even run for a bus, and that's fine. So it's about finding things. And I suppose part of your role is to be creative around working with someone to see what their limitations, for want of a better word, are, to try and find something that really works for them, that enables them to enjoy exercise and not feel like they're the worst person in the room every time. Because I think that joy in exercise is such an important catalyst, isn't it, to being consistent with it?
Yeah, it will allow you to stick with it. And I tell you, one of the things I've noticed of my whole career, and lots of conversations I've had with people, particularly people that have joined gyms and never stuck with it. And that is quite often one of the problems is boredom. The idea of thinking that they have to do certain things to achieve a certain goal, which quite often isn't the case. And also another reason I have I'm such a big advocate of weights. I do bang on about
You
it a
are,
lot.
aren't you?
But that is because it is one of the most empowering things that I notice from people. Firstly, because it's so easy to measure progress. You know, for our brains to stay interested in wanting to do something, we have to give ourselves that high. We have to feel like we're making progress.
Yes,
and if
indeed.
we go into the gym every single week, and I think this is often what happens, like you get your program at the gym and you follow it, and every time you're just doing the same thing over and over again. Now, don't get me wrong, I do the same thing over and over again, week after week. But the difference is I'm making sure I'm beating last week. That's generally the goal if I'm working towards something. So each time I'm trying to see if I can do an extra rep or maybe go up in weight. So what happens is you're constantly, and particularly in the early days, if you've never done weights before, the first few months are amazing because you make such quick progress. You're like, oh, I can't believe how, like I'll hand back the weights that people started with and they're like, oh, it feels so easy now. And because you're constantly progressing, and that keeps the mind interested. And weights is very easy to measure that way. And also quite often people don't feel quite so uncomfortable doing weights because, you know, when you're getting out of breath and you're really struggling to breathe when you're doing something like running, that could be quite off-putting. It doesn't necessarily make you feel that good, unless you love running. And then obviously, you know, you push through because that's your thing. But it's hard when you first start running, and it continues to be hard. It does get easier, but it's a very different feeling. So I do find that if someone's not that keen on exercise, weights is quite a good way of starting. And the other thing, I return back to that word, foundations. Now, particularly if you've not been particularly active as a child, or just as you get older, you become more sedentary, a lot of muscles in your body haven't actually had to do very much. And unfortunately, there's going to be weaker and stronger parts. And what will happen is if you do go out and you start doing lots of jumping around and perhaps running, people will often within a few weeks perhaps have an injury. So if you start with some weights, and this doesn't mean hours and hours a week, I mean, even if you just do, you know, an hour or even less a week, this will build up over time. What you're doing is you're building the foundation of the muscles that allow you to do all these other movements. So if you've got that strength there, your body can move in all those other ways because you also have trust and confidence in it. And actually, it's all about building a relationship with ourselves, really. As much as a lot of our perhaps motivations come from the outside, really, if we can build a relationship with our body, understanding how we feel when we do certain things, the muscles that we're trying to work, what makes you, what makes you get out of breath, that you really start building the mind-muscle connection.
Yes.
Yes. And for me, I think if you can have that foundation and those basic skills, you can then pass that on to so many other things. And I think to empower people with that is just so important, because you've got that forever then, and you will be able to also hopefully prevent, you know, having injuries and stuff in the future, or if you do get injured, because of course these things can happen. And again, genetically, you might be predisposed to certain conditions. You will recover quicker. Or you will be able to help yourself. You know, if, for example, if you were to break your leg or your ankle, if you haven't got any upper body strength, you're going to really struggle. Whereas if you actually can move yourself around quite a lot with your upper body, you're not going to be so debilitated from any injury that you might get. So there's so many different aspects of it that I think really allow you to build that foundation and confidence. The amount, and actually it's my favorite thing. One of my favorite things that people, particularly when they've come to me with, you know, wanting to lose weight and look different, within a few weeks their posture changes because they're more aware of the muscles in their body, and two, the confidence, like you can just, it starts to beam out like a light. And that is for me the thing that I really love, because when someone is more confident, it helps them make different and better choices in so many, in fact, in most areas of your life. You know, this is all connected. If we don't look after our bodies and our minds are what make all of our choices in life. And perhaps, you know, if we feel more confident and stronger and someone offers you an opportunity, you're more likely to say yes because you have more confidence in yourself. Whereas if you feel like you can't do anything and you're really weak and all of those kinds of emotions, you probably say no to a lot. And I think we want to say yes. We want to say yes to everything in life and get the
I
most
think that
from
is
it.
so true. I think that's absolutely spot on. And just before I explore that, because I think that's really important, I just wanted to say that as an older woman, so I'm in my late 50s, what you do start to lose, I think, probably from menopause, pre-menopause onwards, is that you start to lose that muscular strength. And I noticed it, I think, in my very early 50s, maybe late 40s, I noticed that just things like holding heavy doors in office buildings was just a little bit tougher. And I thought, gosh, that's really interesting. And I think it's obviously that natural aging process. So it makes sense that the more that you can invest leading up to that point. So all you young people out there, particularly young women listening, you've got to invest in your muscles so that you're strong when you get to my age. And it's certainly that thing that goes. And also, I also remember when I used to do weight training in my 20s, I absolutely loved it too. That this idea that the more muscle you have, it actually improves your metabolism, so you're actually more likely to burn fat. We're going to talk about burning fat in a minute, but so that's all good. But I just wanted to build on the point that you were making about the confidence, and I think also that one of the things about exercise in terms of its relationship with one's eating behavior is that if you're using your body, then you naturally will feel your muscles. So you're naturally connected with your body. You know that you're investing in it positively in an exercise way. And so I think it creates more of a sense of respect for yourself, for your body. And therefore, we are more encouraged to fuel it better, to nourish it better, to not abuse it, to not take advantage of it. And so it is as you say, an holistic approach to health. And actually health has to underpin all of these things. And I know that you and I are very aligned in terms of the motivation for exercise being health. And for me, the motivation for eating differently is first about health, and maybe weight loss is a spin-off, but the first port of call has to be about health, because otherwise, a bit like going back to these targets that you were talking about, we are focused on numerical targets rather than behavioral targets. I know you said, obviously, some people, they're aiming towards something specific target wise, but for most people, it's about behavioral change, isn't it? And it's about investment in life. And it's a much sort of bigger, sort of this shape process. I'm making a big circle for those of you that can't actually see. Oh, and there's also a dog that's walked in behind Vicki. We should have podcast with optional viewing, shouldn't really? So I just think that's so important to keep the perspective right, that it's not narrow, it's not about the scales, it's not necessarily about, what weight am I lifting today, because sometimes we won't have days where we're as strong. And it's about sort of, yes, obviously building progress and having positive change and seeing reward and feeling satisfaction from that. But, sometimes it's just not going to happen, and that's fine, because we've done our best, haven't we, on that particular day. No, I think that's brilliant point, Vicki.
Completely agree. I think it is about becoming in tune with ourselves, and there's a few points I wanted to bring up from what you've said. I mean, you're absolutely right when it comes to muscle wastage. Unfortunately, it's a very sad reality that we all have to fight. I mean, most people might start to notice it once they hit the 40 mark, but ultimately, if you do not use your muscles very, very slowly, and obviously this is a very slight and gradual process, it's not like it's gone overnight, but it will slowly start to decrease. The amount of muscle that you have will decrease, which is why things become harder and harder as you get older, and you struggle to move in certain positions. That is why it's so important to build the foundation and then maintain. A lot of this is just about, and it's why it always comes back to sort of a lifestyle idea, finding ways that you enjoy to move your body and work your muscles, because then your body will keep hold of it, because it has to. And also, if you've never done anything, don't think, oh, well, I've left it too late now. it is not. It is never too
No,
late.
no, absolutely.
Ever. You know,
Yeah.
I have lots of people, 40s, 50s, 60s. My oldest is heading towards her mid 80s. You know, you can make a change. Yeah, it's very, very awesome. And you can make a change at any time. It's never, ever too late. So don't be put off and think, oh, I've left it. You know, you can start with very, very simple movements and not very much and feel a huge, huge benefit. Sometimes we just need to learn how to move our bodies. And it becomes more intuitive, I think, as you practice, but it doesn't matter how stiff or immobile you may feel, you can get yourself moving more.
Yeah. And I guess that's something, I suppose if people haven't done it for a while, it's something that actually they should get some help with, you know, even if it's just a couple of hours with you, just to talk it through, because they may lack some confidence and they may be slightly worried. They may also have, because they're older, they've got some physical history going on of things that might have happened, you know, falls and, like me, hip replacements and things, you know, and they all get in the way, don't they? Yeah.
You might have to make modifications, but that doesn't mean you can't benefit from moving in some way. And also on the muscle wastage thing, one more thing that I would say, and again, because I just love resistance training in some way or another, and you can get it through yoga as well, because I teach yoga too. And that is, when people try and lose weight, for example, they might choose just to run it off, and they just think, how much cardio can I do? I've got to burn the calories, I've got to get the calories down, so I'm burning through the fat. But actually what happens, the body isn't, it doesn't do as we would want it to. You can't tell it, I only want you to burn the fat. Do not take anything else, because unfortunately
I only want it to go off my hips because I don't want to lose my boobs. Yes, exactly.
It doesn't do that. It does what it wants to do. But if you do no sort of resistance training, your body will not feel the need to keep hold of a lot of muscle. So you will actually lose a lot of muscle as well. And when I speak to people, more often than not, when you get down to what they want to look like and how they want to see themselves, usually they want to see, you know, for example, in the bingo wing is always shown to me as the thing they want to see the definition in their arm. I said, well, if you want to see that nice little horseshoe line in your arm, actually we need to build muscle. So if you were to only focus on just doing lots of cardio and keeping the calories really low, you might lose number on the scale, but you'll shrink, but you won't necessarily look like you want to look. And the image most people have in their minds is muscle definition. That doesn't mean you're bulky, but muscle definition. And that requires you to do resistance training. So that is definitely one of the, and I wonderfully, I think the last few years, people's that sort of misconception has got smaller, but I still think there are people out there that think that actually you just want to sort of starve it off, run it off, but that's probably not gonna have you ending up how you want to look.
Oh, starve it off, run it off. Oh my goodness. I mean, where do we start? Because there's a whole sort of thinking out there, isn't there, that I come across in my work, and I'm sure that you do too, in terms of this moralizing of food and this idea that if I eat a certain food or if I eat a certain quantity, I've absolutely then got to go out for a 10-mile run. And there's this very unhealthy connection, isn't there, between eating and actually not allowing the body to hold on to it, not allowing the body to use it. I have to go and burn it, and I have to go and get rid of it, you know, almost like because there's a fear of perhaps changing this physicality that somebody is aspiring, probably unrealistically, a lot of the time too. And one other thing to add to that, before I ask what your view is, I know that there was some press, wasn't there, last year about the whole food labeling thing, where they were proposing, I don't know if they actually ever did it, I should know that, but I don't know whether they actually did it.
I was hoping that it just disappeared.
Well, hopefully, where they were going to put on food what they suggested the exercise process would be to burn off the calories. And it's like, I mean, if you don't have an issue with your relationship with food and exercise, and you're not obsessive about it, maybe it's just quite interesting and it gives people an idea of the calorific value of food. but crikey, for anybody who is already, you know, got this association, I mean, I was really alarmed, and I know that the eating disorder fraternity was really alarmed, and I just sort of wondered whether you come across that in your work, you know, this connection between, oh, I can't eat that because that means I have to go to the gym an extra 2 times a week.
Oh, it's definitely a thing. I personally try and avoid it as much as possible, because it couldn't be much less helpful, really.
No.
And
Exactly.
it's so interesting, because in some ways exercise and food are intrinsically linked, and other ways they need to be kept completely separate. So it's complete opposites, really. And on one hand, if you want to perform well, if you want to get fitter and you want to get stronger and you want to be able to do more with your body, you need to fuel it well. You know, you need to fuel it with nourishing food. It is your energy source. You know, if you're not feeding it very good food, you're probably going to feel quite sluggish. You might struggle to recover as well. You know, recovery is a big part of it. So it's an important part, but yet I feel the relationship of what you're doing for the food that you're doing is a really unhealthy relationship to have. I'll give you a perfect example of it that makes it very difficult to measure. And I mean, obviously everyone has the watches that give them some sort of calories, or they use MyFitnessPal and you earn those calories. They're so flawed to start with. I mean, the calculations to get to that point are, they're not ideal. And they all come up with different ideas quite often. And the main reason it's not going to work is because everyone's body is unique and our makeup is different, you know, so how much muscle you've got, how much, you know, what your body composition is and how it deals with the food is obviously such a big part of that. So that's the first thing. So yeah, always ignore, and if anything ever tries to tell you how many calories, just ignore that fact, because it's just too fundamentally flawed to possibly get into it. And back to my main point, back to my favorite weights. So weights,
you don't say, resistance training.
So weights versus cardio, like a cardio focus work. It might be a run, you know, it could be a class perhaps, you know, it doesn't matter what form it comes in. If you look at we'll go back to the watch. If you look at the watch, you will be shown to burn probably a few hundred calories whilst you're doing that cardio workout, which obviously people get really excited about, because it's like, yeah, that's good, that's what I need so I can eat more, eating more of a deficit. Often, so obviously we know they're not necessarily accurate, but just even say that they were. And people like to track when they're doing their weights workouts as well. Now, obviously a weights workout can be very different, it can be quite a very slow workout, or it can be quite cardiovascular in itself as well. But you will not burn during that period of time as many calories, very unlikely, unless you've got a very cardio heavyweight session. But the thing that makes it more complicated is when you do weights and you break down muscle, your body then has to recover and repair the muscle. So you break it down whilst you work out, you're breaking down your muscle fibers, and then over the next 24, 48 hours, it's fixing itself. It's using the protein from your diet to fix, and that is making your body work harder. So you would be burning more calories whilst your body is fixing than what you'd otherwise do. Now, that is why it's so difficult, because you cannot really measure exactly how many more calories your body is burning, but there is every chance in the long run you'll be burning more calories from the weight training, from the cardio, but psychologically you feel like you've done more doing the cardio than you do with the weights. And I'll do my one more sales pitch for resistance training.
Yeah, go on then.
If you're very limited for time, to me, weights is the thing. If you have a balanced program, that you can cover everything. So people are often surprised that they can get out of breath when they're doing certain exercises, big compound movements. You have big muscles working. You do start to get a bit out of breath, and want to have a sit down afterwards, a bit hot and sweaty. Certain moves can also allow you. In fact, one of my clients, he told me the other week, he's actually a runner, but he knows he should do resistance as well, so he does that with me. And he said he has done no more stretching in the same period of time the only difference was that he's done weights, and his flexibility, he can actually get down to his toes now, whereas he couldn't before. And that was purely by doing weights. So not only can you get stronger, you can get more flexible, and you can work your cardiovascular system. So unless you really hate it, if you have limited time, if you can do some weights, you can cover all of those areas, and work all elements of that sphere rather than just one.
Yeah.
Just because I'm passionate about it.
Oh yeah. But I think it's all about it's all about people understanding the different benefits of different types of exercise. And I think, going back to your point earlier, you were saying that the world is very fast and it's very immediate, and it's not that difficult to have a small set of dumbbells at home, or to have something that they have in their cupboard, some tins or something, and just have a short routine that they do, which is just going to improve their strength, as we've said, their confidence, their body respect, and all of that is just brilliant anyway, and great for health. And if they're also trying to change their behavior around eating, then that's going to inspire them to look after themselves better. So it's a big, massive win-win-win, really, isn't it?
It really is. And I think that, the connection as well, it's like, as much as I do think focused sessions can really allow you to make progress with certain goals, and your body will really respect you for that. But ultimately, the more you fidget, the more you move, the more you just allow yourself to not sit perfectly still all day, your body actually, you burn the most calories when you're burn the calories, that's very hard, but we're using most fuel when we're moving, and we move more than our one workout session. And actually, the more you can fidget and move, and maybe just have a dance about the kitchen, or whatever it might be, that will be a bigger impact overall. Increasing your movement is so important, and often that can come in just having fun. You can just go for a lovely walk, or you can just have a dance in the kitchen. It doesn't matter how you do it necessarily.
Yes.
Just, again, it seeps into your day. And the one more thing I would say is, sometimes more isn't more. It's actually really, really important to rest and recover. So people, if people are looking for drops on the scales, as much as I don't think you just want to focus on that at all, you will often find the bigger drop on the scale on those days after you have not trained. Because actually you are putting a stress on your body by doing those things. Good stresses, our bodies are more than capable of having stresses, but we also need to give it a chance to recover and rest. And when we sleep, that's often when we never weigh at night. If you are into weighing, never weigh at night. The worst possible time. You've literally eaten and drunk all day. It's no indication of anything. And all those little things, I think, just to allow you to create a better relationship with yourself, because sleep is really important for recovery, not only so you don't ache as much, but also, your body does lots of stuff at night that makes it run more efficiently, which will hopefully then help you have a better relationship with your diet and exercise as well.
Absolutely, because if you're tired, that upsets the balance of two really important hormones, which tell you whether you are full and whether you're hungry. And without those, you sort of lose the whole equilibrium of those fundamental intuitive messages, which is what we're looking for with a mindful eating approach. And of course, yes, if we haven't rested, then we don't have the mindset perhaps and the resilience to do anything, including the exercise, because it's not always easy, is it? It's not
and also, a big part of building the relationship with yourself is also, there are times when we have to G ourselves up and say, right, no, we're doing this, it's in our plan, we'll feel better for doing it. And you do feel better for doing it. But there are other days when actually you are really tired and you're really exhausted, and actually that day needs to be a recovery day. And that does take time, because you might, particularly, I think over winter, people often feel a little bit more sluggish, less inclined to move. And perhaps even if you switch it, so maybe you were planning to do a weight session, but you feel quite tired, so maybe just go for a long walk. Move your body, because you'll get the benefit from that, but it's not going to hit your body even more, because if you are feeling run down, to put a big stressor on it is quite possibly not the best thing for you to do and to make progress overall. So it takes time, I think, to really come in tune with, am I just a bit sluggish and I need to get moving, or actually no, this is the day to take it easy. And I think over time you become more in tune with that as you get to know yourself better and how things make you feel.
And I suppose you can also help people with that, can't you? So if they're doing a guided program with you, they get the motivation, because I remember when I used to have a personal trainer and she'd come around about 7:30 in the morning and we'd be jumping around on a trampoline in the garden, I seem to remember. You know, and that was always motivational, and always, I think it's a bit like lots of things, isn't it? If you've got it fixed in the diary with someone, there's that accountability. And in fact, I was having a conversation with a really, really great coach who works in confidence. Her name is Gail Tong, enrichment coaching. And she was saying that I think people sometimes underestimate the benefit of having that one-to-one guidance and accountability. And that's what coaching, that's what that personal thing is all about, isn't it? It's about helping people reach their goals, whatever they might be. So
fulfill potential as well. I think people will often hold themselves back and think they can't do things, and you know, we can instill confidence and give them the knowledge and absolutely give them the motivation, and it is really powerful, you know. And it can come in different ways, you know. I obviously have people one-to-one that I would give that to, but I also design programs on the app so people have something to follow. Often not knowing what structure to follow can be a big stumbling block as well. People will just kind of, I'll just go and do some stuff. Now, that is fine sometimes. Sometimes just do some stuff, workouts, quite fun, you know. But actually, most people want to feel that progress. So having a structure so that you feel like you're making progress, perhaps towards little mini goals, like you want to be able to do a pull-up, or you want to be able to do a full press-up, or whatever it might be. That allows you to have the structure that therefore gives you confidence that you know what you're doing. So it can be little things, you know, and that's what this year has done as well. You know, that's why I've got the club with online classes. There is the app, there's lots of YouTube videos, and there are different ways that you can encourage and give structure to your routine. And that is often something that's needed for a lot of people, because you just don't know where to start.
No, exactly. Oh, that's really helpful. So I'll put some links to all of those things in the blurb for this, so that people can find you. And can people just have a one-off consultation with you?
Honestly, people can message me anytime. You know, you can book free consultations. We just have a chat. You know, sometimes people just need to talk things through.
Yes.
And you know what, I love chatting with people. I love helping people. It's one of the reasons I started the podcast. Again, you know, the goal I think we both share is the more knowledge people have and are empowered with, you know, we can all make these choices for ourselves. We don't need to be told. Sometimes we just need the information to start with.
Yeah. And we need that perspective. And I think we need that shift of mindset. We need that confidence building. And that's where it all starts then. And actually, you know, I think the joy for all of us as personal coaches is to enable. It's a bit like the little toys, isn't it? You kind of wind them up and then off they go, and they're off down the longest table and you never see them again. And that's kind of success, certainly in my book, you know, because I know that they're equipped to be able to do it themselves. I think in your world it's slightly different, because if people are working to specific targets, they may need that hands-on advice. But you're right that in principle it is about enablement and empowerment and setting people up for success. I mean, that's what it's all about.
Exactly. Skills for life. There's not, you know, ABC, you must do this, that and the other. It's not as simple as that. We've got to find what works for ourselves forever.
Yeah. Oh, Vicki, thank you so much. There's a whole world of information there for me and also for everybody listening, I'm sure. So I will put all your details in the podcast blurb so that people can look at all your stuff. So YouTube, Instagram, there's the app that they can download from the App Store, can they?
That would be through me, but if you head to my website, head to my website and there's all
through the website. So I'll put the website details on that as well. And yes, gosh, all right, I'm just going to go and pick up my dumbbells now and do some resistance training, because somebody just spent the last hour telling me how great it is.
Oh, wonderful. It got across. It came across.
Got through eventually. Oh, thank you so much. It's been a really enjoyable chat. Thank you.
I've loved it. No, thank you for having me. I really loved this conversation.
Thank you. Bye-bye, Vicki.
Bye-bye.